It's my honor today to welcome and introduce our speaker, Tommi Vincent. We are so lucky to have her today. A leader in the national movement to end domestic violence. As chairwoman of the National Domestic Violence Hotline Board of Directors, Tommi developed strategy, guidelines, policy, and legislation aimed at ending domestic violence, ending it, and that is the ultimate goal. And of course, along with that goes sexual assault and bridging the gap in survivor needs, because once they get away from that situation, you have to continue to support them. Her highly recognized work includes advocacy for shelter supportive services, for funding, crisis counseling, safety planning, and many, many, many other services. She's a nationally acclaimed public speaker. She's appeared on the stage and in media, many, many national media, and including the National Football League. So please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Tommi Vincent.
Good afternoon, everyone. As stated, my name is Tommi Vincent, and I am a thriving domestic violence survivor. And my personal mission in life is to normalize the conversation and not the behavior. So today I am going to take you on a little journey. Because one of the things that sometimes I believe, that we omit from our daily life is our story. And why would we do that? Why would we not want to bring our whole entire self to the table? Well, because there's aspects of our story that we believe if people found out, if people knew where I've come from, if people knew what I endured, if people knew what I experienced, they may determine that I shouldn't be here. I would like to share with you today, to the contrary, it is your experience, it is your story that qualifies you to be at the table. Because when you have a story and you bring every aspect of yourself to the table, you are adding value to whatever that situation is. And so I'm going to take you on a journey in my story. And I have titled my presentation for you all today, Love Does Not Hurt Intentionally, My Love Story. So let me introduce you to this precious little girl. Her name is Tommi Arlene Vincent. That is Tommi on the top row with the round beret in her hair. That was my favorite outfit. It's a Raggedy Ann and Andy shirt, and it's a Raggedy Ann but a beret in my hair. And this is the little girl who one day was sitting on the floor in her bedroom, playing with this toy that she received for Christmas. This toy was so special because she wrote a list to Santa Claus and he gave her exactly what she wanted. So she was sitting there playing and enjoying, laughing, singing it, because it was a radio with a microphone. So she was singing and celebrating, hey, I got this new toy. The door flew open. There stood her aunt, covered in blood from head to toe. She looked at me, I looked at her. She said nothing, I said nothing, but so much was said in that moment. She jumped behind the door, and I continued to look at her, wanting to know what is happening. She never said a mumbling word. She stood behind the door unclothed, cloaked in blood as her clothing, shuddering and shaking. And I just sat there, dropped my toy, and developed my own narrative of what could possibly be taking place here. Because not only did she not say anything, but no one talked to me about that moment in my life. So at 3 years old, I was left to decide and narrate this story myself. I do know that evening, that during this incident, that the police arrived. And in the car, they put her boyfriend in the back of the vehicle. I do know he returned that same evening. I do know that she continued to have him in her life. So in that moment, what became so clear to me is that this is love. He loved her because he did this to her because of the love he had for her. So at 3 years old, I decided that love looked like someone harming me. Now let's talk about how this moment in my life impacted me as I continued to matriculate through life. The formative years, when my brain is developing between the ages of 0 through 8, what does that do to a young person? What are the impacts of that? For we know that well, if you didn't know, now you're about to find out. So in the formative years are the period between 0 and 8, when the brain and neurobiological development are the fastest after birth. What happens in these years from 0 to 8 affect your physical development, it impacts your mental development, and it impacts your success in life. So what are some of the impacts of someone like a 3-year-old experiencing trauma, unexplained trauma, unidentified trauma, left to interpret the situation? So it impacts my physical and mental health. It can cause an increased risk of me using alcohol and drugs. It can increase my risk of depression and suicide. It can increase a higher risk of heart disease, lung disease, cancer, and liver disease. More likely to take up smoking and experience obedience. All of this is potential for this 3-year-old girl because of this moment of trauma in her life. So let's keep going, because the story does not end there. So now I want you to meet this queen. This is Tommi Arlene Vincent in high school. So I have experienced trauma through my eye gates. I saw the trauma. I knew something was gravely wrong, and I left that situation believing this is love. Here is Tommi involved in a relationship with a boy. This boy cut all the front of Tommi's hair off. This boy would knock her to the ground and stomp her body till you could hear the flesh cracking, and you can hear the sounds of what the blows were doing to her body. Black eye after black eye after black eye. this Tommi. So we got little Tommi, who's here and present in this moment, because she is saying, oh yeah, this is love. He loves you. He loves you so much. He really loves you. He really loves you. You're putting on makeup to cover your black eyes. You're embarrassed, of course, because now you have to hide from everyone. Because you know, even though you believe this is love, if they find out, not that somebody's going to come and protect me, but that something's going to happen to him, that he's going to get in trouble. He's going to have to pay a consequence for what he's doing for me. And in that moment, I somehow believed, because I'm defining love, that it was my job to protect the boy who was abusing me. So let's talk about how this story progressed and where we landed in this relationship. One day, I'm coming from a concert with the boy and another couple. We're walking home. We're walking along Calhoun Street in Trenton, New Jersey. We get to the bridge. At this point, we've already started very commonplace arguing and doing the things that we do that define this love I believe I have with this young man. We get to the top of the bridge. He hoists me up in the air to throw me off of the bridge. Underneath me, on the ground, at the bottom of the bridge, is concrete and broken glass. I was 16 years old, and in that moment, my whole 16 years of life flashed before my eyes. I can't even articulate to you what the moment was like. All I knew is I literally saw an entire movie of 16 years go before my eyes. And I remember saying, God, if you get me out of this, if you get me out of this, I won't go back. And I yelled to my friend, call my mom, call my mom. And she's busy crying and afraid that in this moment, what is inevitable? If he drops me, I die. It's not even questionable. He drops me, I die. And in that moment, it was like so surreal. I get this thought, you need to negotiate your way down. Now, this is all a matter of minutes. And I somehow articulate to him in a language that penetrates his rage. Because when you're in an abusive relationship, the person that's doing the abusing, they can't hear, they can't see, but whatever I said, it caused all of that to simmer down. And I said, hey, let's just go home. Let's just go home before you say or I say anything that is going to, cause something to go really bad. And all of a sudden, I could feel him lowering me down. And I'm like, I just need to get home. If I can get home, I know I'll be okay. I can get home. So we're walking, so I have to continue to walk with him. In my mind, just thinking, you got to get away from him. You got to get home. You got to get to your mom and your dad. You got to get to your mom and dad so you can live. That's the priority at this moment. Tommi Arlene Vincent needs to live. We pass his house. We get there, and I'm like, stay here. We'll talk later. Let's just cool down. Let's just cool down. And I make it home. I would like to say that that was the end of the moment. Weeks later, which I thought to be very odd, I hadn't heard from him in weeks. He showed up on my doorstep with a bottle of pills. He took the pills and overdosed. Now, he didn't die. But here I am encountering another traumatic moment in my life. I call his mom, they get him to the hospital, and they put him in a psychiatric hospital. Fast forward, I'm married. I'm at my mom's house, who still has the same phone number that this boy had. I'm there just arbitrarily one day from Florida, don't even live there anymore. I pick up the phone, it's him. He's on the other line. His then girlfriend is screaming and crying in the background because he's using me to hurt her. Now, the piece of this story about this boy that I haven't shared is he grew up watching his father beat his mother. So this is not a coincidence. Unattended trauma becomes a weapon formed against you, and that weapon takes effect. And not only does it impact your life, but it impacts the lives of everyone around you. So now let's keep going into the story. Because while I experienced trauma, and I had got to this place where I defined love as pain, as hurt, I continued to live. That moment that I received the words to negotiate my way off of that bridge, Tommi Arlene Vincent lived. She lived to see another day. She kept taking one step at a time, moving forward, and every step was so intentional, not because I knew I would be here on this stage. That's not why. I had a man come into my life whom many of you are familiar with, my husband, Troy Vincent. Troy saw me before I saw myself. He and I both had stories. He and I didn't talk about those stories for many years in our marriage. So here we are, trauma meet trauma, traumatizing each other. And as we continue to grow and heal, the work came to us. The opportunity to get on stages like this to share our stories, it happened. And I have to tell you, this is the most empowering thing that a survivor can do. The ability to get before people and to share her story, his or her story, is such a powerful act of snatching back everything that that abuser took from him or her. And so fast forward, I start telling my story, I start sharing details. And as I continue to share details, more details come to my mind. Because like I said in the beginning, when you have a story and you don't want people to know because you think it's going to get you out of the room, or that people are going to look at you funny, that people are going to judge you, there was so much of Tommi Arlene Vincent that I tucked away, that I hid so I could wear the mask and show up as Troy Vincent's wife, to show up as my kid's mother, to show up as a successful woman, that I thought that if people knew this chapter of my life, that they would say, why is she here? She doesn't belong here. Lo and behold, I share my story, and I'm in rooms like this. The power is in our ability to tell our stories to whatever degree you're comfortable, because the person sitting to the left, the person sitting to the right, you never know what they've experienced in life. You never know how you opening up and sharing becomes the opportunity for them to get free from an experience that they've had in their life. So, you know, I think about fire. In my life, was full of a lot of fire. And for many years, that fire was used as a consuming agent. I was burning myself alive. I was still functioning and doing things that we all do as we're just kind of moving through life. But I was a keg ready to explode. Now, as a thriving survivor, that fire lights the fuse that launches my rocket and gives me the ability to propel beyond anything I could ever imagine. I've had the opportunity to speak in front of many audiences, many walks of life, because what we do know as a truth, not an opinion, is that abuse does not discriminate. It impacts everyone. Whether you have your own personal story or you know somebody that has experienced abuse, no one is exempt. And we know that here in this community, we have evidence. You all have this in your information that you received. It's like a heat map of the area that's indicating that abuse is here. So what I think is so amazing about this luncheon and the ability to be part of the solution, because everybody here, you're clearly part of the solution, because you all came and you are aware of the organization. Even if you're a guest of someone, I'm sure you took an opportunity to find out a little bit of what is this I'm supporting, what is this I'm going to. So we're all in this room because we understand the mission is clear, because the shelter has a vision. And the vision is this: a community free from domestic violence and human trafficking. That is the work. And I had the opportunity to go and to view the facilities and see the transitional housing and to go by the shelter options shop. And I have to tell you how my heart was so full after the experience. See, I am fortunate. I didn't have access to those resources growing up, nor did I have terminology. There are a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that I'm sure the shelter services, they don't know the fancy terminology that is now associated with domestic violence and trafficking and sexual assault. There's all kinds of acronyms, all kinds of words. All you know is, oh, this is just one more thing in life I have to deal with. Never crossed my mind to call law enforcement. It never crossed my mind that this was wrong. It never crossed my mind when I saw other family members and other friends in abusive relationships that this is wrong and we need to do something about this. When you have an organization that recognizes we got to get the boots on the ground because lives are at stake, we have an opportunity here to transform the lives of survivors all across Naples. We have the ability to ensure that a generation coming behind those being abused does not interpret love the way that I did. And I'm not up here to say, give, donate. I'm calling on you just to continue to support. Whatever it is you're doing, continue to do that. One thing I wanted to call out that I think is sometimes you may not think, but the store, Option Shop, at this store, they receive donations of furniture, of clothing, all the things you can imagine. All of us at some point in time, we're doing things to readjust our life and realign our lives. And so we have things, furniture, we have clothing, we have small appliances, we have these things that we are figuring out how do we do something else with them because we want to take out the old and put in something new. When the clients of the organization become involved, they get vouchers to go to the store and to shop. This is a big deal because abuse is about power and control. So if you're giving somebody the option to walk into a store and now choose what they want, to shape and mold their home in a way that makes them feel good, that is so empowering for a survivor. So I just wanted to make sure I called that out because I'm like, does everybody know that this is also a way that you can support the shelter? That's an easy lift. That's not stroking a check. That's you just being thoughtful as you're doing things that you would naturally do anyway. And I'll leave the fundraising piece up to the people that's what they do. But I just wanted to make sure that I highlighted that for you all. So I have transformed my pain into purpose, and now I'm so powerful. I'm so powerful. And I am honored to have the opportunity to be on this stage today to share my story one more time. Thank you so much.